Episode 90, Nerdy News and Stuff.
Welcome to the Visionary Variety Podcast, where we cover cool stuff like photo, video, film, books, and technology. So switch on your brain and enjoy the show. Welcome back to the Visionary Variety Podcast. I am Daniel Grove, one of your hosts. We also have with us Nate Gunn.
Hey.
Angela Brock.
Howdy.
And Joshua Howell.
Hello.
Well, this is a Nerdy News and Stuff episode, which is a reoccurring thing we do about every other month, maybe, where we just talk about various nerdy newses and stuff. Could be movie announcements. Yeah, real deep. We talk about trailers, sometimes technology, just kind of entertainment, geeky things going on in the culture. But before we get to that, how have you guys been and what's going on in y'all's lives? Anything interesting? Anything particularly nerdy?
Angela, go. I'm joking.
Okay, I'll be the nerd here.
Right.
Yeah, I've started getting back into selling art at conventions this year.
Yay.
So I've
Awesome.
decided to get my feet
Nerd.
wet at a small convention in Kentucky, in Elizabethtown. It's called Night Risers Con, and I guess it advertises itself as sort of like a spooky con. Like they got some indie horror people being there, but it's mainly vendor based. So it's also like an art and comic con too.
Cool.
So yeah, I'm gonna be there selling prints.
Awesome. You recently drew and posted an awesome pencil drawing from Stranger Things, which I love. We shared it on the page. If you haven't seen Angela's art, where can people find your stuff online?
They can find me at Art by Angela Brock on Facebook and Angela Brock Art on Instagram and Twitter.
So the only thing that I have been up to is just updating my computer. I figured after 10 years of using the same MacBook Pro, I probably ought to.
Wow.
How old was I 10 years ago? 15?
Well, I mean, that's the beauty of Mac. I mean,
Older than my kids.
it lasts 10 years. I don't have to buy a new computer every 2 years.
If they make you pay as much as you would for a used car, it better last 10 years.
See, that's true. That's why I waited 10 years. I mean, after
Yeah.
buying that one, I couldn't afford anything else.
I started watching Home Improvement again.
Okay.
And
Awesome.
Random.
yeah, I love me some Hulu, and they just kind of have all the 90s and 80s stuff like Home
Oh,
Improvement.
man.
A good wholesome show.
I think nerd culture does kind of like that show a lot because I do see a Wilson, I think, at every big convention that I
Really?
go to. So
Yeah.
Heidi-ho.
It's great.
I wonder if
So
anybody
good.
brought him a fence, and they did a picture.
No, that's what they do. They carry around like a small picket fence
Yeah.
and they keep putting it in front of
I
their
want
face.
to
Like
go.
a helmet-mounted piece on their head. I grew up watching that show. That was a good show. Although
Yeah.
in my mind, it is Tool Time. The show, like the actual show, I call it Tool Time.
Also, I've been picking up a lot of Mythbusters. And I found out the
Nice.
Hulu. But if you want to own them, it's like $700 on the whole collection. I was like, yeah. So I'll just
yeah,
watch off
no.
Hulu.
What a bargain.
So I'm like, yeah, nah.
No, as for me, I've been listening to a really cool audiobook called Anathema by Neil Stevenson, and it is awesome. It is so cool. I'm not going to take time to like riff about it right now. Maybe in a future audiobooks episode, I will. But I'm only like halfway through, and it's definitely a 5-star. So check
Yeah.
that out. I had one of my lightsaber designs 3D printed recently by a guy in UK, and it looks super cool. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to get to a point where my 3D files can be actually purchased and sold, and like actually be good enough for people who want to buy them, and can make their own custom lightsabers with individual pieces, and they all fit together. So I'm working on designing that, but kind of as a beta tester, I had a few of my friends like, hey, do you want to print this for free? You can keep it. I don't want it. I just want to see if my files are printable, and if they like work and fit
Yeah.
together. So, because I don't have a 3D printer and I don't want to buy one.
It was cool being at lunch and you're like, look at this. I was like, dude,
Yeah.
that's so cool.
Yeah, it
Just
looks
take
pretty
your
awesome.
idea and made it real.
But the end result would, of course, be like the person that prints it will be expected to paint it and finish it. And, it's like a model
Yeah.
car, like a kit. Think of right now, a lot of photography stuff going on, but don't really want to talk about that in this episode. All right, well, that's enough about us. Let's get on with some nerdy news and stuff. So the biggest thing that I can't get out of my head is, of course, Star Wars Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker
Mhm.
trailer. It is
Dum,
beautiful.
dum,
Eh.
Oh, Josh. For the listeners
Hey.
out there, Josh is our resident Star Trek Trekkie, so we had to forgive him. He's not. He's not chemically dependent upon Star Wars like I am. So I just had to point out a few things. The first thing that I love about this trailer is the music. Oh my gosh, when that theme song picks up and it's like full orchestra, wow, I got chills. Like every time I listen to it, I'm just like, oh, I love this song.
Can we talk about the space horses? I was like, oh, what?
Neat.
They're on a Star Destroyer, running on top of Star Destroyer.
Where have you been?
Oh man. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Lots of cool things. And there's actually tons of like breakdown videos that explain like scene for scene where they are, what's happening. Most likely a lot of speculation. But there's I think C-3PO is gonna die. I had to get it off my chest.
Yeah.
He's
How
gonna
many
die.
classic characters do they need to kill off before I'm gonna flip a table? I swear.
Honestly,
Chewbacca dies.
honestly, the way I feel is like just put everybody else on the ship and blow them up. Just get it over with. God, I
just-
feel like every movie they use.
Wow. Nate, that got really dark. From a Trekkie talking about Star Wars, that
I
was
feel like every movie they just kill off somebody you love.
I feel like we need to know a little bit more what's going on, Nate. Like, who hurt you? Like, that got really dark. But yeah, no, I agree. I mean, even as a Trekkie, if they kill off, if R2D2 dies, we riot.
I noticed something interesting. The very original first idea that Lucas had for the Star Wars stories was to have the Wills, which is I think it's WHILLS, and they were like this cosmic being that like collected stories and retold memories, and like that's how the Star Wars story would be delivered to you via like the narrator of the Wills, right? That was dropped and completely, but it's almost like R2D2 is the place of the Wills. Like he is the recording device of all this history that we see through the Skywalker saga, and kind of interesting. I don't know. I think it's coming. Of course, Leia dies, and somehow they're gonna have that happen.
Did you guys catch her voice at the end of the trailer?
Yeah.
Alongside Luke?
Yes.
Yeah. They added her voice and saying "always," and Mark Hamill did a tweet with that end quotes, and I was like, oh. So lots of awesome, juicy stuff happening in there, and I don't know. I even contemplated doing an episode just about the trailer, but I don't know if I will or not. Maybe if we just completely run out of ideas, I'll do that. But there's some really cool videos on YouTube you can find that explain what's going on, things like that. And moving on in the Star Wars realm of news, we've got Kevin Feige, not Fiji, as I said in the previous episode, like an idiot.
Wow.
I had 3 pronunciations of his name in one episode. It started as Fiji. I was tired. I don't know what it was. And then I think I said Feige and then Feige finally.
Could be completely worse. Have you ever seen the video clip of Benedict Cumberbatch pronouncing penguins? When he was narrating a nature documentary about penguins.
Oh my gosh, I have to see this.
He pronounced it like 17 different ways
Penguins.
during the recording of the documentary, and they released it like that.
Oh no! What? Throughout the video, he changes.
Yeah, so throughout the documentary, he pronounces it differently, and it's absolutely hysterical.
I didn't know there were other ways to pronounce the word penguin. I did not know.
Like at one point he calls them penguin wings. Like he adds like it's just so weird.
Speaking of audio recording flubs, I was listening to an audiobook of a book from like 1958 called Time Traders. It was actually a really good book. But the guy that did the narration, he would stop and he would re-say lines and like he would start over a few sentences.
Oh, Lord.
And they didn't catch it. They didn't edit it out. I'm thinking, I'm going to write this publishing company, say, hey, I'll edit this if you pay me X number of dollars. And you're welcome. This recording's been out for like 15 years and no one's ever fixed it. I think it's hilarious.
Good Lord.
So weird.
Oh man.
He'll like sniffle and like re-say a line. It changed the voice inflection. It's pretty weird.
Yeah.
Funny.
So we were talking about Star Wars news. Kevin Feige is quote unquote taking over Star Wars.
Yeah, well, I mean, they also have him down for Indiana Jones too. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Fun.
I feel like they're just handing him everything. Disney's like, yeah, you're doing a good job. So here you go.
Avengers made us money. You can make us more money. But so Feige is joining Lucasfilm with Kathleen Kennedy on an upcoming Star Wars film, which is going to usher in a new wave of Star Wars content. That's kind of exciting because I'm always ranting about the fact that Star Wars is just going over the same like 30 years of history and same characters for like the past 40 years of films. I'm ready to move on. Like I'm done with the Skywalkers. I'm done with all the typical stuff we always see.
I mean, we're not
everything
done
Death
with them,
Star.
but they just need to take a break for a little
Yeah,
bit.
they need to move on. I mean, this is like the Lord of the Rings world, where it's just there's so much stuff everywhere, so much history and depth, but we don't get to see a lot of it. So, yeah, Kathleen Kennedy and Feige will be doing a new Star Wars trilogy. They will be coming. Each of those movies will be coming out in the Decembers of 2022, 2024, and 2026. So there we go. We got our 2-year, boom, 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 money making plan.
I was actually just reading an article about it. That actually may be put on hold because of Feige's new role with Marvel.
Yeah.
He actually just took over everything Marvel, including the comic books. So he oversees everything.
Maybe he has clones of himself, because how does he do?
And
all
I was
this?
like, how can one person do all that?
When you're making billions of dollars, I mean,
find a way.
Mm.
Yeah.
So with this new trilogy, do you guys have any personal favorites or things you'd like to see in that trilogy?
I'd like them to just explore on like Old Republic or the Knights of Ren, or even further backwards, because we're kind of current. It'd be kind of cool to go like see Darth Bane and stuff like that, and Darth Revan.
They even do like Plagius or whatever. Could they even do like a trilogy
That'd
with
be cool.
Plagius or something?
He's got a lot of history in the books. Not canon anymore, but we definitely could do something with him. I'd like to see like some origin of the Jedi, or some group of people that learns the Force and becomes what we think of as Jedi, but without the formal training. Without all the rules and all the junk that Jedi have to deal with.
Yeah.
That'd be a fun, fresh take on Force users and, using it for good. It's like they don't need all these rules and stuff. Maybe on a planet where they've never even heard of the Jedi.
I mean, I really want them to invest time and get somebody. I know it's a joke, and it's kind of been the 2019 joke of putting Keanu Reeves as Revan, but I like that kind of idea where they're actually playing with the idea of having somebody like him to play that role.
They better before it gets any older, because it's going to be kind of weird. I feel like Revan was like a 30-year-old in the books ish, like give or take a little bit, but
I think Keanu Reeves thinks he's 30 still.
Yeah. So other than that trilogy, I don't know, is Rian Johnson's trilogy still happening? That he said he was going to make.
They've talked about that they're not cutting the ropes with him, and but they just haven't really shed any light since the new information that we're talking about. Yeah,
it seems like the general fan base, for some reason, thinks that Star Wars Episode 8 was as bad as a Christmas special. That they just think that Rian Johnson is.
I beg to differ. That I watched the Christmas special.
sorry about that. I made you watch it. But it just seems like the toxic fan base, which is almost more than the non-toxic fan base, unfortunately, just believes that Rian Johnson is completely incapable of making a decent movie, and I don't buy that at all. So I say, hey, give him a trilogy. Let's see what happens. And he said himself he wanted to make it like brand new characters, new place, new planet, and I'm all about that. So.
I'm trying to remember where I heard it, or where I read the article, but I had heard somewhere that his trilogy was not out of the picture, but it was going to come after the Feige, the Feige and Kathleen Kennedy movie or trilogy, whatever they decide to do. Then it was going to be Johnson's trilogy.
One more thing about Star Wars news I saw, actually, Nate, you shared it to us in the group message, was that there's a new comic there's a current comic out by Marvel.
Yeah, I didn't do any reading on that. I sent that kind of as a reminder.
Yeah, so it covers, Ben Skywalker, and it kind of just talks about his history. So I think it's issue number 2 is coming out in January, and it's going to talk about him as a youth when right after he, attacks Luke and just burns down the temple. And on the cover of the comic, there's an art of Luke and Ben together, set back to back, fighting against the Knights of Ren. And this is when Ben is, like a teenager. He's like 13, 14. And they're fighting the Knights of Ren. And one of them has a red freaking lightsaber. I'm like, what is happening here? We got Knights of Ren past, which is like 15 years in the past. We got a lightsaber. Are they from Snoke? What is happening? We don't know. So lots of cool backstory, being published and canonized about Ben. That'll come out very soon after episode 9 is out. So, which by the way, I'm super stoked. So this movie, episode 9, is coming out on December 20th, which everyone knows around the world that's the infamous Daniel Grove International Birthday Day, which is my birthday, and I'm going to see Star Wars Episode 9. I bought tickets. which
What a great gift.
it is
Nice.
to myself. I had to buy it myself, but it's big to me because this is a big deal for me. I am not I never go to premiere nights. I never buy tickets ahead of time to movies. I don't go like when the movie first comes out. I just don't like the lines and the craziness. But for this one, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. This is Star Wars. Okay,
Yeah.
it's worth it. So yeah, that's
I
happening.
like what we're talking about, like December 2022. I'm just hoping to focus more on their TV show that they're going to be producing, because that is going to be able to give more information on characters that we'd like to know about.
You talk about the Mandalorian?
Yeah, they can give more detail, and we don't have to be rushed in a 2.5-hour movie.
Yeah.
George Lucas came out in an interview and said that the future of Star Wars, if it were up to him, the future of Star Wars would be on Disney Plus, because it gives you so much longer to tell the story. You don't have to confine it into a 2.5-hour
Yeah,
movie.
it's totally different.
He just sees that Star Wars is should be moving away from movies and go towards the Disney Plus.
Interesting.
And that way you get so much more of these other stories that are out there. Like
It's going to be like the books, just giving you in TV version, basically.
I think that wraps it up for all of our Star Wars news. Let's move on to some other movies. And so the first one I have on my list is the Venom plus Spider-Man movie that is rumored to be in development. Would you guys like to see a Tom Holland versus
Tom Hardy?
Yeah, the Toms.
The Tom is Tom.
I would like to see Venom. I know we've seen parts of him way back in the original trilogy of this whole Spider-Man stuff, but now
we don't talk about that, Nate.
No,
Yeah, whatever.
It doesn't count.
But hey, don't talk bad. They're trying to bring it full circle and do a multi-universe, so I'd like to see him come back at least.
3 Spider-Mans in one.
Yeah. I don't know. It'd be different. I'm curious to see. I mean, like, there's only one take they can go on it, but I guess they thought about that maybe 15 or 20 years ago as well. So it's something new, and it would just be different. I know I had some challenges with the Venom movie, one being the graphics on Venom, but other than that, I'd be excited for the storyline.
I'm just hoping that when the sequel comes out next year, Venom 2, hopefully they'll improve the CGI a lot. Because if not, that's not looking good for.
I'm not remembering the
Spider-Man.
badness of the CGI. I don't remember.
He just looked. I know he's supposed to be shiny, but he looked
the
like
design.
plastic.
The design of Venom was just a little off. It bothered me
Plasticky.
the entire movie.
Huh. I don't remember thinking about that, but it's been a while. Yeah, I think if I remember right, when Spider-Man was announced to like no longer be in the MCU, then I saw some stuff about a Venom movie by Sony, of course, with Sony Spider-Man in it, and it's like it would be like ripped out of the MCU, but still with Tom Holland, which is weird. But now Spider-Man, of course, as we predicted, is back with Marvel. Surprise, surprise.
Man, what a difficult role to play, and always be concerned like what my contract's gonna look like next year.
Yeah.
Like, because they've been playing back and forth, and then Fox took it, and then Marvel took it, and then they're like, and then now it's like, oh, you're back.
Yeah, I looked it up, and turns out that on September 27th is when Marvel's is when Sony announced that Spider-Man would be returning to the MCU, and they would go back on track with all the movies. There's of course a third Spider-Man movie going to come out. From what I read, it's July 16th, 2021. So that's kind of long from now.
But and aren't they gonna cover like when he graduates or college?
I think it's gonna at that time it's gonna have to be college. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he's already in his 20s as an actor, but he's doing a really good job playing high school.
He's a great 17-year-old.
He does. It's kind of
he does.
Yeah.
Heard the contract between Sony and Marvel with him coming back to the MCU. He is rumored to be appearing in Venom 2 as part of that contract. So
cool. Okay.
The Venom and Spider-Man movie is still a possibility. I haven't heard any updates on it. I know the original talk was when they allowed him to come back to the MCU, that it was only for one more standalone, so Spider-Man 3.
Wow.
And then he could appear in 2 more Marvel movies. So he's only back for three movies total.
Honestly, when the actor said put me in 20 more Spider-Man, I was like, dude, for real. Like, it'd be really cool to watch a guy go from a younger Peter Parker to an older Peter Parker.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I know that's not. I know he probably wouldn't be, that teenage like that everybody likes following, but still, come on.
I like when there's some real time passage in between movies. I think that's kind of neat. Like like the possibility of there being a Batman Beyond movie coming out with Michael Keaton as old Bruce Wayne. Like
That would be
it's so
cool.
perfect. He's aged. It fits. I don't know who played Terry McGinnis. That'd be interesting. But I would love to see a Batman Beyond movie or 3. Oh, such a cool universe and cool aesthetic. Cyberpunk Batman. What more could you ask for?
I'm curious on like the design they'd give him after all these years.
Yeah. I mean, Batman.
Just no bat nipples, please.
Dark Knight's Batman suit was very advanced. It was like high secret military technology grade. And then I'm thinking, wait a second.
It just is as much as Marvel's moving forward. I feel bad for DC kind of being behind to the point where
poor guys.
Henry Cavill's kind of like, I don't know if I want to be Superman anymore. I'm like, no,
we love you with your jawline. It's so perfect.
Yeah, your chin.
Oh no, well, let's not get into the mustache.
Yeah.
Other Bat news is Robert Pattinson, of course, we know is going to be the next Batman. And, it was fun to make fun of him at first because the whole like Twilight thing. But
I think he's going to do a good job.
Sparkle Batman. But I actually watched the video and I'm kind of on the other side now. I think
I think I'm ready. I was like, I wonder if Daniel's going to like this video.
I did. The guy made a pretty good point. Is that basically Robert Pattinson is a very versatile actor. He's very good at portraying various moods and types of people, and he's done dark and moody stuff. He's got a great chin, so there's that going for him. And
one goal in life.
I mean, if all you need is a great chin, the cashier at Albertsons down the road, I mean, he's got the perfect Batman chin. So
you just walk up to him and be like, you know what you have? He's like, great personality. Nope, great chin.
You got a bad chin on you.
Number 1 quality.
Here's my agent's number. They made a funny comparison though in this video between Edward Cullen and Robert Pattinson as Batman. And they said he's hunky, he's rich, he's smoldering, he's smart, and he knows martial arts. He also likes shadows. I was like, yeah,
and bats.
That's true. That's and bats. Yes, that's Batman, and that's Edward Cullen. It's perfect.
Yeah,
that's funny.
And he also likes to look nice.
As long as his acting's on point, I could see good potential for that.
He might need to bulk up a little bit, but that's part of the job.
I'm sure most of them have. Like
every Batman we've had, everybody said good job. I mean, there's a few bad ones when you look backwards, but
George
people
Clooney.
just didn't like it at all.
No. Nobody said good job to George.
No, not me. I never watched that one.
Good.
But I feel like at today's standards as Batman, I feel like they're going to have standards be like, look, we know who you are, get that, but if you don't bulk up, do this, they're going to morph him to be the character they want him to be.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be a cool film. And I wonder if they're going to just pretend like Batflick never happened and carry on with the DCEU or what's...
Maybe. It's kind of like what they did with Jared Leto's Joker and how he's not even going to be in Suicide Squad 2, apparently.
Oh, really?
He's
not
butthurt. He's not in Suicide Squad, the Suicide Squad. Sorry, whatever you want to call the movie. Or Birds of Prey.
Birds of Prey, yeah.
Right.
Joaquin Phoenix, maybe?
That'd
be weird.
Oh my gosh.
That would be weird.
It's so dumb.
Scorsese said that his Joker, that Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, will not appear in any of the other movies because it was a standalone movie.
Yeah.
Cool. It was an origin story. I was like, gosh, dang it.
Have y'all seen it?
Yes.
No, but
half of us have.
Joaquin kind of has that personality, and the dark gritty that Joaquin presented that I haven't seen the movie, and then I have Patterson. I'm just like, dude, like we're coming up on the alley of like this dark gritty kind of stuff. But I know that the current Joaquin Joker was just a story to be like a standalone, like what Josh was saying.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good stuff about it.
And he's almost at like $1 billion in box office or whatever for the rated R movie. I was like, goodness.
Yeah, I will say when you do go see it, because my wife and I went and saw it just a few days ago, and do not expect to feel good coming out of the movie.
Yeah. I hear it's heavy.
It is extremely heavy. And I really enjoyed watching the movie with my wife because she has her degree in psychology.
Ooh.
And so we had a deep dive into the conversations after the movie.
Get her on the podcast.
You know what? When we're ready to do a Joker episode, maybe we will have her come on.
You do a psychoanalysis.
Yeah, it's heavy. It is
Mhm.
extremely heavy. But good.
Uh,
I mean, I'm not gonna knock the movie at all, but
Mhm.
I still
mhm.
think Heath Ledger is the best Joker that we've ever had.
Yeah, for
Mhm.
sure.
Awesome. Well, let's lighten things up a little bit. The trailer for Doctor Doolittle came out, and
Sherlock Holmes talking to animals.
yeah, I was caught off guard. I was like, wait a second, this is like in the 1800s. What's happening? But that's the original story.
Yeah.
It was back in the
Yeah.
day. It was not current day. Which
Was it?
yeah,
Oh man,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
it takes place in the 1920s. Actually, sorry, not 1800s.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
Doctor Doolittle that we got from in our childhood was all 90s.
Yeah.
Probably to save money.
Huh.
Robert Downey Jr. did a good job. I was at first I was a little skeptical because we've seen him as Sherlock Holmes, and he's kind of he's a loony, basically a smart loony, and he's kind of all over the map. But now he's more structured
Mhm.
and stuff. So I was just like, I don't know how I feel about that.
Are you questioning the awesomeness of RDJ?
No,
I know.
What is wrong
I
with
just
you?
didn't know. I didn't know how he was going to portray a doctor from a detective. I didn't know how well that would transparent on screen for
Oh, boy.
everybody. I mean, there's been in the talks that after he was done being Iron Man, which we don't know fully if he is, but
Mhm.
that they want to make another Sherlock Holmes 3 with him.
Yes,
But Dr. Doolittle.
I've actually heard that they're working on the script for Sherlock Holmes 3.
Yeah.
So
So this is just his practice run to get back in character. I'm just joking. No, it looks really good. There was a few things that the graphics looked a little vibrant. It kind of made the characters, the animals, look a little
It's very fantasy.
fake, which was sad. Yeah, very, very storytelling fantasy, which is fine. I mean, it fits the story. And then I saw a lot of the water and boats, and I was like, oh, look, Pirates of the Caribbean. And then,
Oh my goodness.
but yeah, I'm very curious because, like what Daniel was saying, the only Dr. Doolittle we got was like 90s, maybe early 2000s.
Mhm.
have none of you ever seen the Jerry Lewis Dr. Doolittle movie?
What?
I mean,
Do you know how old we are?
I didn't know there was
Do you know
one.
how
I'm
old
not,
you are?
I'm not
I
that
know
old.
it existed, but I've never seen it.
Huh.
No, yeah. So that one was really good. I grew up watching that one.
Yeah.
And then when the Dr. Doolittle with Eddie Murphy came out,
Yeah.
I wasn't entirely sold on that one.
That must have
No.
been weird.
Because of that. Because I mean, it's Jerry Lewis and then Eddie Murphy. I mean,
yeah. What?
Yeah.
both are hysterical, but it's Jerry Lewis. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw the trailer for Doolittle, and I was pleasantly surprised. So I mean, even by the cast of the voices of the animals, that one surprised
Yeah.
me. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm not entirely sure how I feel about John Cena voicing an animal, but
His music. Dun, 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 dun.
Look, he was in Fred the movie. I mean, he's been in some weird
I
stuff.
hope he's like a
so
chipmunk or
nothing
something
surprises
small.
me.
He's kind of making his debut more and more in movies. He's supposed to be a firefighter
yeah,
or whatever. Like he's kind of pulling the Rock, Dwayne Johnson kind of
Yeah.
career
He
now.
really is,
He is.
honestly.
Well, speaking of The Rock, Fast and Furious is getting another one. Was this 8 now?
No,
8 or 9?
I'm fine with the Fast and Furious. I love the Fast and Furious, but to add Cardi B, no.
Yeah.
You see the comment? I said, for the love of God, no.
My,
Yeah, no.
my theory is they're just going to use her to voice all the engine sounds and the tire screeching and some
Yeah,
explosions.
that's exactly what I thought.
Oh my God.
You know, it's perfect.
I'm okay with that. I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's about as all I'm good with. And I won't
Oh my
lie,
God.
I literally just got done watching Fast and Furious presents Hobson Shaw right before we started recording this
Oh,
podcast.
jealous.
That's a
Oh my
great
God.
movie, right?
So it's fun. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a fun movie.
It's
I mean,
different.
I'm trying to remember. I know my wife said something about really like that happened. I'm like, but you didn't say
Yeah.
that about the self-driving motorcycle. Like that's, I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
I love the humor that they allow in that movie.
Could Hobson
Yeah.
Shaw have been a standalone film without the Fast and Furious name attached to it? Did it have to be Fast and
Maybe,
Furious?
but they may have not been Hobbs and Shaw, but they could have kept the humor.
Like, there's,
they-
some
yeah.
trucks in there, but it's not like cars like the others were.
No, I mean they did. It wasn't heavily like. So when you think of Fast and Furious, you think of like drag racing race,
Yeah,
and
not
then
sci-fi.
as they evolved, they have kind of evolved with the times, like moving to Tokyo, and then
Having robots, super
Um,
soldiers.
yeah, they kind of that's the thing is like each movie they kind of evolved from like old school to new school, and they just keep going. So I wouldn't be surprised here when everybody's done that they're in space.
Yeah, they're going to be like
Probably.
Fast and Furious 10 is going to be like hyperdrives and space races.
And I mean, Ad Astra just proved that they did racing on the.
Oh,
I
yeah.
saw Ad Astra. I'm not going to be anything away, but I mean, they're drifting
booking
on the
it.
moon. I'm like, okay.
Nice.
Moon drift instead of Tokyo drift.
What in the world?
Lunar drift.
Yeah, so the next Fast and Furious movie will be number 9. And
Yeah.
and the
They're
whole
just pumping
Hobson
them out.
Shaw thing, it's just absolutely ridiculous. The fact
Yeah,
that
it is.
they could have done the movie, but they could not have been Hobbs and Shaw because those are characters from
Oh, they were
the
already
Fast and Furious
established.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Um,
built off the franchise. It was not like a standalone, like, we don't need that story. Like, they had a backstory.
Yeah, because
And then the repercussions that they were dealing with outside of the group of Fast and Furious.
Yeah. So, but the whole thing about them even getting their own movie, it was rumored that they were going to, but because The Rock and Vin Diesel had a beef, they decided, well, Hobbs, The Rock's character, will not be in any more of the Fast and the Furious movies because he and Vin Diesel don't like each other. But we can't get rid of this character because he's too good. And the chemistry between him and Jason Statham in the previous movies was too good. So you know what? We're just going to do our own thing now. And so now we're going to have these two parallel Fast and the Furious franchises, the Hobbs and
Yeah.
Shaw franchise and then the regular original franchise.
Which is fine with me because it kind of gives it a different taste than just cars. The Hobbs and
placement.
Shaw was kind of
Yeah.
like it was kind of like Super Agent.
Yeah.
Kind of. It was more like a James Bond Super Agent Mission Impossible than just all about cars and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
I won't lie. I will say it did prove that Idris Elba can potentially portray the next James Bond.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
I'm all for that.
So
Well, speaking of Vin Diesel, man, these transitions in this episode are just
Oh
rocking.
my goodness.
I didn't even know it. Speaking of,
They better. You wrote the notes on the script.
yeah. So Vin Diesel, we got Riddick 4 coming in production, which is I'm stoked. I love Riddick.
I tried to do some research on this, and everything I was finding was like 3, 5, 6, 10 years old.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I was looking in all the right places, but I was just like, what? Wait, what is happening right now?
Weird. Well, I mean, the last one was in 2013, and before that it was like 2004. So this is kind of a franchise that's just very spaced out.
Yeah.
Maybe it's funding. Maybe it's
Yeah.
like Vin Diesel trying to convince people to do it. The Riddick films are a really fresh sci-fi world. There's actually, as the movies go on, you kind of learn more about the bigger universe, and I like that. I love world building.
Yeah.
And there's alien races. They're humanoid alien races. There's like history. There's different planets. It's really cool. It's a pretty big world and a lot of mystery.
I think the franchise as a whole, I think it's pretty good. I've seen all 3 of the live action movies, and I saw the Chronicles of Riddick Dark Fury animated short that came out in 2004.
Pretty cool.
I did just see that they released a 6-minute animated short back in 2013, the same year that they released Riddick, the most recent live action movie.
Oh,
But
interesting.
I haven't seen that yet.
The last live action was just titled Riddick.
Yes.
And then Chronicles of Riddick was the second one, and then Pitch Black was the first one.
Yes,
think.
Pitch Black was the first one.
Nice.
So I remember Pitch Black coming out into the theaters because I mean that came out in 2000, and the trailers for it just did not grab me. I actually didn't even see it until I saw it right before I saw Chronicles of Riddick. I rented the movie and watched it that way, but I thought it definitely picked up with Chronicles of Riddick and then Riddick. I think this is a franchise that's gotten better as it's gone on. I don't think
it really has.
I don't think it started very well, but I think it's gotten better.
Mhm.
I can see that. Well, apparently in Riddick 4, I don't know what the title is for it, but they're going to go back to, or they're going to explore Riddick's homeworld, which is called Furia. And he's a Furian. That's their humanoid alien race. So apparently there's like branches of the human race, going back thousands of years into space that have, adapted and changed. So there's like the elementals, they can control elements. There's the Furians, who are like fierce warrior, animalistic people. And I don't know what else there is. I'm forgetting about the other groups, but I hope it's good. I hope they have good funding. And
Speaking of more
Yeah.
Yeah, more
More
Vin
Vin
Diesel,
Diesel.
but wait, there's more. So this movie, the trailer came out, I think, last week for a movie called Bloodshot with Vin Diesel. Surprise, surprise.
Oh my
And
gosh.
he's a
Yes.
nanobot infused, butt kicking, like turncoat super soldier spy thing. I don't know what's going
And
on.
that trailer was trippy though.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
It's based on a
They,
comic book by the same name.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
Yeah.
I have to look that up. Looks pretty exciting.
As in the middle of the trailer when they were switching his thoughts and they were just using them as marks, I was like, wow, that's a new one right there. Like basically having him dream that his wife died by a somebody and wasting all the other dreams he has just for him to be a hitman. I'm like, wow, that's a new flavor I've not seen.
Joe Solis, who was on a previous episode, I think that's when we talked about all the new introduced heroes with the MCU and Disney Plus. Joe Solis posted it on Facebook. That's how I saw it, and he kind of posed the question: could this be a new cinematic universe for Sony? And I think that would be cool if we get a really good setup, for a new story and characters and a big world with questions. I don't know. It'd be kind of neat to see a few sequels if it turns out to be good. I don't know.
Yeah.
Action movie nonetheless with nanobots. He's like Captain America with Black Panther technology. There's a few updates we got on casting for Matrix 4. So Jada Pinkett Smith is going to be returning. Woo woo. This is a weird one. Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah, that one's hanging me up. Like, I don't understand that one.
Unless he's going to be like a nerd or an agent.
He's kind of he can't
Agent
be a
Barney.
Oh my gosh. That'd be funny. Honestly, the only thing I could see Neil Patrick Harris doing in the Matrix franchise or world is him being like the new AI or the personification of an AI.
Dr.
Don't you think that could fit?
I think
don't
that
know.
one. I think that could fit. Or he is
Like a new
the
architect?
well. So in the first Matrix, you had Mouse. You had that kind of weird little kid that created the woman in the red dress. I could see him
Yeah.
being a character
I
like
remember.
that.
Okay, yeah.
Is this is this after 3?
Yes. Matrix 4 is after Matrix 3.
Well, I know I get that. I know the number comes after 3, but as far as the story,
Yes.
I was reading somewhere that they wanted to cast Michael B. Jordan. I was like, what?
Yeah.
To play a young Morpheus.
I mean, there could be flashbacks. This is a new Matrix rendition, so there could be new versions of characters we know already. I don't know. There's a lot of things they can do with that.
Yeah, it's going to be
Yeah.
weird, especially since they've got Keanu Reeves and what is her name?
And Moss, Carrie Ann Moss.
Yeah, since they have Keanu Reeves and Carrie Ann Moss coming back, reprising their
Who
roles from
died.
the original trilogy. Yeah, that's the thing is they both died. Spoilers: if you have not seen the original Matrix trilogy, you've had 20 years to watch it. So
Shame on you.
yeah. So the fact that they're reprising their characters is just strange.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I'm kind of glad that they didn't recast Neo. Although they could have, they could have.
be a new one.
That's something that I saw talking about Matrix 4 updates. Also, they could be rebooting the whole franchise even with Keanu Reeves because there was a scene where he meets the architect. And the architect is surrounded by all of the TVs, and he starts talking about the previous versions of the one that he had appeared that had come before him, before Neo, before Keanu Reeves' character, and they all had Keanu Reeves' face. And so,
Well, we don't know if those TV screens were other ones or if it
That's true.
was. We actually talked about that in the Matrix episode, which are some awesome 2 episodes. I love those part 1 and 2. If you love the Matrix even a little bit, or if you're just completely confused by the Matrix, either way, go watch those. Listen to those episodes, and it'll sort you out. But one of the things that I actually brought up were those alternate Neos, alternate Matrix reboots in the past, which the architect says there's only been 6, or were they just programmed statistical predictions of what he might do? Because the Oracle can predict the future statistically of what someone might do based on human psychology.
Mm-hmm.
So because they're just a program. I don't know. That was a cool discussion. So
Can we also highlight that Keanu Reeves has John Wick 4 coming out and Matrix 4 coming out?
dang money.
Yeah.
And last casting that I saw was Jessica Henwick, who plays the karate dojo owner in Iron Fist.
Ooh.
Oh,
She's
yeah,
definitely got
that's
some
right.
martial arts experience. Decent actor from what I remember. Didn't like wow me. So yeah.
Yeah, but
she's in
in the Matrix world, their acting is kind of
yeah.
points out as kind of
The
awkward
flip-flop.
in some area. So
Which I gotta plug the other episodes. We talked about that too, and how in the Matrix the humans act very machine like. But but the programs in the Matrix act very human like.
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Juxtaposition. All right, so moving on, we got Sailor Moon Eternal. Any Sailor Moon fans in the house? Nope.
I've watched a couple seasons of the original.
All right.
Kind of the original. It was the original cartoon, but they got a new dub, I guess, within the last
Oh,
few
okay.
years. So I've seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's not my favorite, but you know, I appreciate what it's brought into anime. I guess.
Yeah, I watched as a kid. I watched a few episodes here and there. I forgot if it was on Toonami
Yeah,
or
I think it was because I
think
remember
it
when I was a
was.
kid. I think it would come on like before Dragon Ball Z, but I just never watched it.
Yeah, yeah. There's
Honestly, all the Sailor Moon stuff I've ever done are at like Comic Cons and events. I've never
That's
actually
it.
watched it.
You're not missing much.
Yeah.
I don't think it'd be one of your favorites.
You're not the exact demographic that show's aiming for. So,
That's
so
racist. I'm sorry.
from what I've read about, this is basically a 2-part movie release in the Japanese theaters, and it's taking place of season 4
That's
for the show.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
So I'm guessing, is the show based off of a manga?
Yeah, it is, and
Okay.
they also rebooted the show, and I think it's streaming on
Yeah.
Hulu. So it's Sailor Moon Crystal, and that's like what this is
Right.
supposed to be the 4th season of that show.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, so they already, like, when I was reading about it, there's already an arc. Like, there's like a character arc for these 2 movies, which is season
Yeah.
4.
Mhm.
Something. How do they know the arc already? But it's because the manga.
Right.
It's based on the manga. So
Mhm.
it all makes sense. And a lot of anime shows are like that. They
Oh, yeah.
come from just like
The
Marvel
vast
movies come from
majority.
comic books.
Mhm.
Yeah. So the true fans already know what to expect, or now they just get to see a film rendition or adaptation of it.
Right.
Something we've become acquainted with very much over here in the U.S.
Yeah.
All right, we're still in the animated realm. Recess. Did you guys grow up watching Recess?
I did.
A little bit,
I
but
watched
not
that
enough
show
to
quite
know
a
what
bit.
this was about.
I love Recess. It was one of my favorite Saturday morning cartoons.
Mm-hmm. It was good.
So there's some kind of fan film, right? Angela, did you look this up?
Yeah, I actually ended up watching that earlier today.
Oh, cool. It's already out.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of this at all. So I don't know when this project started to come about, but it was an independent, I guess, film company wanted to do a live action sort of tribute to Recess. It's not associated with Disney or anything at all.
Like 20 years later, random.
Kind of, they're like all teenagers now. Kind of like almost, it feels like a Riverdale sort of thing with what they did with it.
Oh.
It's I mean, it's not as dramatic, but like the whole plot, I guess, of this 12-minute short film was, I guess, Mikey, one of the kids, ended up with one of the Ashleys or something. So he was super depressed, and then they tried to cheer him up, and then like he got back together with the girl or whatever. It's really stupid, but most of the whole thing is just like little nods and tributes to the show. So like all the characters say like a lot of the catchphrases they would say, and there were like little references to other characters like King Bob and Miss
King
what
Bob.
was the teacher's name? I don't know. Randall like brought her up because Randall's in it too, and he's still looks weird as a teenager.
So someone apparently has not been able to get Recess out of their mind for the past 15,
I know,
20
that's what
years.
I thought was really
Yeah.
weird. Like, why make this now?
It's so weird.
I know,
It's
because
not like the show's getting a reboot or anything.
No.
because that was like
Oh,
what 90s and
Thank
early
God.
2000s when that show was around. Like, good lord,
Yeah.
I watched the show a lot, and yet I forgot a whole lot about it too. It's
Mhm.
weird. I mean, it was cute, I
Odd.
guess.
It was
You would
nostalgic.
not like it at all if you hadn't watched the show because it's kind of dumb as a standalone thing, in my opinion. But they raised all their money through Indiegogo, so people wanted to see this. So,
Yeah, when they bring something back like this, it's weird because the original audience, who we can safely assume is their target audience for this new project,
Mhm.
Yeah.
that original audience is now grown up. They don't want to like watch
Yeah.
that necessarily,
Yeah, it's
It's
very
just
weird.
odd.
I mean, Hollywood
They
does this
missed-
a lot too, like they bring something back years and years and years and years later like
Mhm.
Hocus Pocus 2 or whatever, even though people are
Yeah,
gonna gobble that up once it comes out on Disney Plus eventually.
of course.
Uh-huh. So yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah.
But I guess people wanted to see it because I mean that's how they got their money for it. It's Indiegogo, I think. So people
Oh
paid to
yeah,
see it.
Wow.
crowdfunded.
Uh-huh.
Let's go up to the outer atmosphere for this next news item. We had an all-women's spacewalk or space
Woohoo!
mission recently with NASA, and it's pretty cool. Josh, I think you know a little bit about this. What were they doing, and what's the story with this?
Yeah, so on the 18th, actually, so the astronauts, I'm going to look up their names, Christina Koch and Jessica Meir, accomplished the first ever all-female spacewalk. So
Super cool.
they were out there for about 8 hours. They were working on the space station.
Wow.
They were having to replace a broken power unit. Um,
Wow.
A
so
flux capacitor, maybe
Oh,
power
cool.
converter on
yeah,
Hachi
I think
Station.
it was the alternator. The alternator had gone out, and so they were just having to.
No, it's the warp stabilizer.
Yeah.
I could probably do that job. I replaced
the
my
heck?
serpentine belt yesterday, so I'm pretty like handy
Whoa.
with tools. I could probably fix a space station too.
So you're like a
See
full
what I
on
mean?
mechanic now.
Yeah, I'm
Man.
like licensed.
My gosh.
So I did see that this was Christina's 4th spacewalk, but it was Mir's first. Talking about astronauts on the space station, a European astronaut, Samantha, tweeted out a photo of her wearing a Star Trek Voyager officer's uniform.
Awesome.
So
But why red?
Because that's what the
because she's an
that's what the
officer.
captain wore.
Yeah, it was the
Mm.
captain's uniform. So
Isn't there a haha that's going around like forever that if you wear red you're gonna die?
Mhm.
Oh, that was me.
yeah,
Just being an idiot.
well, no, it's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing. The red shirts die. I mean, it's just like the stormtroopers. They can't hit anything. The red shirts die.
Yeah.
So
So what if they fought each other?
Oh my gosh.
The
so,
stormtrooper would miss, but the red shirt would still die.
yes,
Oh
the
my
red shirt would
gosh.
still die.
Yeah. That's so
Sorry.
stupid.
So yeah, so it was a pretty important day in
Yeah.
space history, in the history of
And
our
nerd history, too.
astronauts and nerd history. The fact that we had an all female spacewalk for the first time.
I think it's cool that she wore that captain's or the officer's uniform because when Star Trek Voyager came out, that was the first female captain in Star Trek.
Yes.
Or on TV, and that was a big deal too. So she's just kind of bringing it full circle with wearing
Yeah.
that. I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being just out in space, hanging on to a ship for like 8
Yes.
hours?
Mm-mm.
Oh,
Let's do it.
it's as terrifying as it is like mind-blowingly awesome.
Uh-huh.
Just push me towards the black hole. See what happens.
Oh my gosh.
Spacewalks are hard work. Like there is a lot. You can barely like grab things with your fingers, and you've got this like
it's kind of like when
tools
you. It's kind of like if you did. Have you ever walked in a pool like on the bottom? It's
Mhm.
like that, but you're in, and that's how they train. So just imagine that, but a little bit more dense, and there's nothing that gives out there. It's an 8-hour workout basically.
Mhm.
Ugh.
Yeah, that suit cannot be easy to move around, and like the dexterity of your hands is really low. The mobility is very low. Your visible like, range.
Because you go from a spaceship to a space suit, which is like your human
It is a
body
spaceship.
space suit. And your
Yeah.
spaceship, yeah. And so it has to be a functioning space
Crazy.
ship.
I wonder.
and-
I wonder how much radiation they absorb when they're out there doing that.
That's a good question.
Probably more than flying in a plane. You know, when you fly in a plane, you get a certain level of radiation, like exposure. And speaking of space, there is some updates. I haven't like looked into it too deep, but the Starship by Elon Musk is like nearing completion, I guess, or maybe it was the plans of it were officially announced. I forgot what it was, but that's coming. I mean,
Just
he's
waiting
gonna
for my phone call. I'm just
Yeah.
joking. I'm just
Oh my
joking.
gosh.
free ride. Can I get a scholarship to Mars? That'd be great.
Yeah, for real. Can I have the first scholarship on Mars? Thanks.
I'm guessing you're just gonna like launch some automated stuff to like get gear there, and then take
honestly,
people there.
Going to Mars would be awesome, but I think they need to like jump to the moon and inhabit the moon before we get to Mars.
That'd be a good launching place. I don't know.
Yeah, because if we can do it on the moon, then we just keep hopping over.
Yeah, they should like mine stuff out of the moon and make stuff in space and launch it off easier.
Yeah,
The hard thing about getting into space is the energy and the fuel it takes to get off of Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
gravity and atmosphere. So if you built stuff in space or on the moon, that'd be great. Was Ad Astra really good?
Oh, pff. Who has not seen it is going to enjoy it. If you enjoyed The Martian, Gravity, Interstellar, yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it
it
looks
was really
beautiful.
good.
It looks really good. I've heard that it was really slow though.
You're not wrong. It was funny. I walked out of that theater and I was like, well, this would have been a great movie if like I hated my dad or something. It would have been inspiring, but it would have been like
dad hating movie, you know?
Yeah, but it was like visually. There's some parts, but I'm not gonna give anything away. Like, dude, wow.
So, since we're talking about news, and we'll bring it back to Star Wars news.
What, a Trekkie brought it back to new
Yeah,
Star
yeah.
Wars?
Well,
Must be important.
I find it just absolutely fascinating. So apparently there is it's considered the holy grail of Star Wars toys from the 1970s. It's a rare Boba Fett J slot
yeah.
rocket firing prototype that they're expected to bring $500,000 at auction.
Oh my god,
Man, this time traveling will steal it.
Probably cost $5 when it came out.
According to the article, they made it was because they were prototypes. They were worried about the firing mechanism being a health hazard.
A choking hazard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they only made 80 to 100 of them, and they only expect
Yeah.
24 of them to still be around. And so
Dang.
it's from the 70s. So it's an original figure, but
That's awesome.
$500,000. I mean, okay, so
dang.
y'all are the Star Wars fans. I like Star Wars. Don't get me wrong. I think Star Wars is fun. I enjoy it. I've seen them all. But I'm not spending $500,000 on a toy.
Heck no.
I mean,
But I am gonna go ask my parents. Be like, did you ever have this toy? And if you did, why did you get rid of it?
Please record that for the
Oh
episode.
my
Yeah.
god.
Hey, Dad,
Just
did you
secretly.
ever have this toy? Yeah. Okay. Well, goodbye.
You probably did, yeah.
We could have $500,000.
I actually saw a guy cosplaying at a convention. I saw it online, but he was cosplaying as the original toy figures. So he had the lightsaber blade coming out of his hand, and even the plastic like pushing thing on the forearm.
What the
Which
fuck?
is
oh
great.
wow.
That's
Yeah. So the way that the original toys worked was there is one of Obi-Wan, there's one of Darth Vader, and I think of Luke, where like Obi-Wan's saber is blue, right? So they had this blue plastic like square tab sticking out of his forearm, like where his elbow is, and you actually slide it forwards towards the wrist, and the blue blade comes out of the plastic lightsaber that's molded into his hand. So there's like this moving sliding lever that's also blue.
Oh, neat.
So the guy was cosplaying. Not only did he have that lightsaber contraption like on his arm, but his outfit was like plasticky and thick, and it was modeled after the original toy outfits,
Wow.
which were designed before the movie even came out.
That's
So like
Yeah.
some of their costumes aren't exactly like the movies.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's like little Jawas you can get that are like thousands of dollars because they use like certain cloth on like the first 100, and they're like, oh, it's too expensive. We got to make it cheaper. But if you buy those originals that had the original like cloth or whatever it was, it's crazy expensive. It's stupid.
Dang.
But pretty cool. The guy actually did the original, the OG toy cosplay.
The only
Yeah.
cool thing I have and like something that I own was a random Christmas gift I got of a stormtrooper, and he has two right hands.
What?
And
Oh
I'm
my
like,
gosh.
I'm not opening that.
Aw.
That's funny.
I'm like, I'm not opening that. And in 20 plus years, I'm getting $500,000.
There you go. There's your investment.
You see on the news, some collector's looking for the double right-handed stormtrooper toy. $1 million. Oh man, that's funny.
Yeah.
Well, I think that about wraps up this episode of Nerdy News and Stuff. Thank you guys for joining us and contributing to it. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You welcome.
Always.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for listening, and we look forward to being in your ears next week.
Whoa.
If you like this show, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app. You can also find our previous episodes there and listen whenever you want. We love to hear from our listeners, so if you have any comments or suggestions for future episodes, you can reach us at tvvpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
They put the math in the computer and pooped out a boat.
Wow.
Nailed
it.
That's a 3D pooper.
Yeah, that's exactly what they did.
Mm-hmm.
Pooped out a boat.